They told you he was the king who set the world in order, the father of justice, the punisher of the wicked, the God who got it right. But the oldest book about him, almost the only witness we have, was written by singers who called themselves the servants of his house. His own daughters taught them the song, so for the next 8 minutes, forget the song. Read what the witnesses actually wrote down: the swallowed wife, the stolen fire, the curse he gift-wrapped for the whole human race, and the night his own family came for him, with chains. By the end, you can decide for yourself what the hymn was paid to bury. Begin where his power begins. Zeus took a wife, Metis, wisdom itself, the wisest of all gods and all men, and the earth and the sky gave him a warning. Metis would bear a daughter and then a son. A son fated to throw his father down. He had heard that prophecy before. It was the same one that destroyed his father and his father's father. So Zeus did the only thing his family had ever done. He swallowed her, whole, while she was pregnant. He coaxed her with soft words, and then he took the wisest being in creation down into his own body. And here is the part the hymns never linger on. He did not eat her to silence her. He ate her so that she would keep counseling him from the inside, so that her wisdom would become his. The throne of the king of the gods is built on a swallowed woman. That was how he treated the one he loved. What he did to the creatures beneath him, to us, was worse. There was a day when gods and mortals divided the world between them, at a place called Macon. A titan named Prometheus laid out the portions, the rich meat hidden under a hide, the bare bones dressed in glistening fat, and asked Zeus to choose. We are usually told Zeus was tricked. Read Hesiod again. Hesiod says Zeus saw through it, that his wisdom was everlasting and he was not deceived. He chose the worst portion, knowing exactly what it was, because he wanted a reason to be cruel. And so he took fire away from humankind. He withheld the one thing that makes a life livable, not as justice, as spite. But hiding the fire was not the crime that should keep you up at night. The crime is what he did to the one who gave it back. Prometheus stole the fire back, carried it down to us hidden in a hollow stalk, and handed the human race its first warmth, its first forge, its first chance. For that kindness, Zeus had him chained to the rock. He drove a shaft through his body, and he sent an eagle to tear out his liver every day. And every night the liver grew back, so that the eagle could begin again. A punishment built to have no end. Centuries later, the playwright Aeschylus would stretch the sentence to thousands of years and name Zeus a tyrant to his face. The eagle and the endless liver are older. They are Hesiod's. Remember what Prometheus was, not an enemy. In the war that made Zeus king, Prometheus stood on his side. This is how the king repaid the one who helped him most, with an eternity of being eaten alive. And even that was not enough. The punishment for fire had a second half, and the second half was aimed at you. Zeus built a weapon and disguised it as a blessing. He had the smith gods shape a woman out of earth. The gods dressed her in grace, and then a shameful, deceitful mind was placed inside her. And she was sent down to mankind as a gift no man could refuse. Hesiod calls her a beautiful evil, a thing you must love even as it ruins you. In Hesiod's other poem, she is given a name, Pandora, in a sealed jar. She lifts the lid, and every sorrow that hunts a human life flies out into the world. Only one thing stays trapped beneath the rim: hope. This was not a punishment for a crime. It was a curse, engineered to be permanent and wrapped as a present, addressed to the entire human species. A curse for the whole species, and still somehow not his darkest sentence. Here the fullest telling is Roman, the poet Ovid much later. Hold it lightly. A king named Lycaon doubted that Zeus was truly a god and tested him by serving him human flesh at his own table. Zeus destroyed the house and turned the king into a wolf. But he did not stop at the guilty man. He looked at all of mankind, decided the whole race was rotten, and drowned it. He opened the sky and let the waters rise until the world was a single sea, and two righteous mortals were left clinging to a mountaintop to begin the species again. That flood, that wolf, that council of gods voting to end us. That is Ovid's Roman version, but the instinct it records is the one Hesiod shows. When the king is angry, the sentence falls on everyone. That is how he punished. Now look closely at how he loved. In Homer's Iliad, Zeus tries to seduce his own wife, and to flatter her, he recites his conquest to her face. Ixion's wife, Danae, Europa, Semele, Alcmene, Demeter, Leto. He lists them like trophies in his own mouth in the oldest source we have, and nearly every name on that list is a deception. He came to them as a bull, as a shower of gold, as a stranger wearing another man's face. He did not court. He disguised himself, and he took. The same weapon that won him the war, the lie, the disguise, the ambush, is the weapon he turned on every woman he wanted. By now you may be wondering why nobody ever stopped him. Somebody tried, and you will not believe who it was. There is a moment in the Iliad almost no one repeats. His own wife, his own brother, his own daughter. Hera, Poseidon, and Athena, the three pillars of his court, once moved to bind the king of the gods in chains and pull him down from his throne. Think about what that means. The people who knew him best, the ones who sat beside him at every feast, who watched how he ruled day after day, looked at each other and decided the world would be better with him in chains. He survived only because a goddess ran and dragged one of the 100-armed monsters up from beneath the world to sit beside him, a creature mightier than his own father, until the conspirators lost their nerve. The king of the gods was nearly overthrown by his own household, and he was saved again by one of the monsters from the pit. And when the palace went quiet, the king made sure no one would ever forget why it should stay quiet. In the Iliad, he warns the assembled gods not to defy him, and he boasts, "Hang a golden chain from heaven and let every god and goddess pull." They could never drag him down, but he could haul all of them, and the earth and the sea, up into the air and leave them dangling there. So much stronger, he says, am I than gods and men? That is the king describing his own rule. Not law, not justice. The simple promise that no one is strong enough to stop him. Strength held the throne, but strength alone does not write history. For that, he needed something cheaper. Some he did not need to fight, some he simply bought. Styx came to his side first in the war, and he made her the unbreakable oath that even gods must swear upon. Hecate, who belonged to the older order, kept every honor she had ever held, in the sky, on the earth, in the sea. We are taught this as the kindness of a generous king. Read it again. A ruler who cannot destroy the powers around him does not forgive them. He puts them on the payroll, and that, at last, brings us back to the hymn. So gather the case. He swallowed the wisest being alive and wore her like a crown. He hid fire out of spite and tortured the one who returned it. He built a curse against all mankind and wrapped it as a gift. He drowned the world when it failed him. His own family tried to chain him in his sleep, and he ruled by his own admission on nothing but the promise that no one could pull him down. None of this is invented. Every act is in the sources. The swallowed wife, the chained titan, the eagle, the jar, the golden chain. What was invented was the word hero. Remember how this began. The oldest telling we have is a hymn, a song of praise, composed by poets who called themselves the servants of his daughters. Singers on the payroll of the house, they were praising. The king does not write his own crimes. He writes his own hymns. Now you know what the hymn was paid to bury. The facts are theirs, the verdict is yours. This was the pale crown. Every god was somebody's monster. Subscribe. There are far darker thrones than this one.